Well, I hope you have your seatbelts on because my story isn't the pretty picture. My childhood was very tough, and the only reason I got through it is because of church and the people that invested in me to teach me about God. A normal day in my youth was waking up very early, getting chores done, making sure everything was very clean. I lived in a very strict home. We didn't laugh unless my dad laughed. We didn't conversate or talk much. Very quiet all the time. But one of my pastimes was listening for the belt buckle. If I heard the belt buckle, then I knew what was about to happen. I also remember being abused, molested at the age of 5. And not really understanding that, but it just didn't feel like it was the right thing. I never told my mother. Very young, at a very young age, I remember the cabinets being very full of canned food, and we seemed, from a child's point of view, seemed to have a lot, seemed to be very blessed. But as I got older, I remember those cans getting lighter and lighter, those cabinets getting more bare. And what I've realized now is that my dad was an alcoholic. So I grew up in a very strict alcoholic home, and the highlight of my week was going to school and church on Sunday. Church, if it wasn't for church, I don't know if I would have hope for anything. Church was a big deal in my house. Like, we were getting ready for church on Saturday, like early Saturday morning. My mother was washing my hair and making sure it was straight, ironing our dresses, and making sure we were ready. Dinner was cooked even on Saturday. So Sunday was the day that I was so excited to get up and get dressed. It was like Christmas, because this is the day that I was hoping that I didn't get a spanking that day. So I would go to church, and I would just love being at Sunday school with other kids. My grandfather was a pastor of a Baptist church. I remember many days waking up and praying to God, Lord, please don't let me get a beating today. And some days that came true, and some days it didn't. And I did think often, and I even think now, I've spent lots of time trying to remember, what did I do so bad, or what was it that was so bad that I needed to get a beating every day. Even though I've been, abused or molested or grew up in this strict, crazy, abusive home, and he gave me a gift that would help me get through all of that. I would go outside and just walk around in the woods, just pine trees and straw and pine cones everywhere. And I would just walk out there, and you can hear the crunch of the straw underneath my feet, and I would just walk out there in the middle of nowhere, really, is what it felt like. That was my own little place away from everything. And I would just sing whatever came to mind, and it was such a peace there, and I could sing at the top of my lungs. And it's probably why I sing so loud now. I'm so used to just singing, having the whole outside as my ground to sing. In the house, we had to be quiet. Almost a whisper was our conversations. So going outside was a freedom to sing. But during those times, it always made me feel better. I didn't understand it then. But when I was sad and upset and wondering why I lived the life I was living, singing always made me feel better. That was a turning point in my life, when I was pregnant and I felt all alone. I felt like the church turned their back on me. They didn't allow me to sing in a choir anymore. I couldn't participate in any of the activities. I felt like my family turned their back on me. Like I said, no one was around, but guess who showed up? My alcoholic father did. Really, God, of all the people to show up, it's him. And that's when I knew that God had really changed my heart. He was not a great father, but man, he was a superb grandfather. And only God could do something like that, to change my heart enough to allow him to love my kids in a way that he didn't seem capable of loving me. So that's how I knew that God had his hand in everything from the beginning. Brings me to tears almost every time I'm singing, and it's hard sometimes to sing through the tears, because why would he use a molested, abused, abandoned Black woman to lead worship for his glory? Like, that flabbergasts me every single time. Every single time I'm like, wow, I don't deserve it. And I'm so humbled that he would choose me. When I am worshiping on the platform, it feels very familiar. It feels like when I was singing in the woods, just the place where me and God meet. And now there's just a lot of other people that get to witness it. So when I sing and I worship, it is like the easiest thing for me to do. I've been doing it my whole life. Jesus has been meeting me there my whole life. Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart feel lonely and long for my heavenly home when Jesus is my portion? A constant friend is he. If his eye is on the sparrow, I know he watches me.